Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the sad old world today, because the world's a shitter place because Eddie Van Halen is no longer in it. My name's Jade, this is How to App on iOS, and this one is for Eddie Van Halen. I'll always be hot for teacher. Oh yeah. Sad news to kick off the show, folks. Yeah. What can you say? The man was a legend. The man inspired many of us who play guitar and who fought through many of his own personal battles, through health battles, and continued to rock out that guitar and provide us with some of the most iconic and amazing music that, as I said, has influenced many of us, myself, heaps. And it's a sad day and a sad time to know that he's no longer going to write any more music. But that's the beauty of art. We at least have his music to listen to forever, and I'm forever grateful for that. So thank you, Eddie Van Halen, my friend. What are we doing today? We are looking at Final Touch Pro. We are stepping into the dangerous and sometimes scary realm of mastering. Ooh, oogie boogie woogie oogie. I know a lot of people are always toey about this subject, about compression and about mastering and what's the right way and what's the wrong way. And, you know, let's start off with the deal. There isn't a wrong way and there isn't a right way. The only wrong way is if it sounds shit, then it is shit. That is it. So it's your music, remember. And there's only one thing you really need to look out for, and that is pumping. Pumping that can happen when you master and over-compress a music file. And that is not something you want from a piece of music. And that will come from forgetting this law. And I'm going to go back to this, and you're probably going to get sick of me saying this all the way through this episode. But less is more. Okay? That is the thing to remember with compression and mastering, because ultimately, before we even get to opening Final Touch on iOS today, you've got to get a good mix. It's like, let's go back even further. If you record your vocals and you take a whole bunch of really shit vocal takes and then say, I'll just fix it in the mix, you've already set yourself up for a really terrible recording. So it's the same, and then we move up a step into mixing. If you mix down a song and then say, that's all right, that'll do, I'll just fix it up in the mastering, then you've set yourself up to fail. If you can get the best performance out of every take in a song, that's your first start. Before you even start thinking about effects are just like glitter that's thrown on at the end to make your songs sound just that little bit glossier, just to make them pop. And it's the same with mixing down. You want everything to be beautiful takes, a little bit of effects on everything, just a sprinkling of that glitter on top, and then a mix down that allows you to hear everything consistently. That's the idea of a mix. You want consistency in your mix, because then when you get to mastering, that's when you can individually make things pop. Make beautiful little nuances and frequencies just pop out and make the song. So it's not always about loudness. Mastering is about loudness, and more so than ever today when we're talking about streaming, digital distribution, streaming and stuff. Because Spotify and places like Apple Music, they seem to want all your audio files to be as loud as fuck. You know? But it's more than that. It's more than that. And mastering is about adding level to your music, but it's also about bringing out those little hidden things that no amount of mixing can bring out. And it's all to do with those frequencies. And it's not about making massive changes. That's less is more. We'll go back to that lots during today. Excuse me. I just had to cough. For those of you over on Facebook, I'm actually live streaming on my personal page today. So if the sound is caca, poo-poo, feel free to join us over here on YouTube, where we have an awesome community of people who I'm about to say hello to in the chat. So, Pete Johns is here, and he says, I'll be back. I'll be a little late. I need coffee. Well, I've got my coffee right here. A bit of ASMR. Shit, that's old school. How to app on iOS. Haven't done that for a while. Gary Hubbs is here in the chat. Scott, Tom Rochelle, SM Borthwick, Stu Cash, Thomas Collane, Benedict Stewart. Who else is here? Anyone else? Deep Gravity, how do you do? Hope you're all doing well today. So, is there any new apps or any price drops? I don't really think so. I had a look earlier and I didn't really see anything new. I can report. So I've got a few things. So I'm going to shoot a video clip for one of the tracks from my EP that I released yesterday for the title track World Downfall. I'm actually going to start recording it on this weekend, the video clip. It's going to be very fucking twisted. So be prepared for that. There's a few things I have to wait for that are being delivered for me to actually... Yes, I'm ordering things to make this video clip cool. So that's going to be happening very soon. Just because the EP was so well received by so many different people. I received so many kind comments and compliments on the EP yesterday, and so many kind people who purchased it. So thank you very much for that. It is now fully available on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, all of the major things. It was amazing. Within 24 hours, it was available on all the stores. So thank you, DistroKid, if you're watching. I love you. All right. So I'll let you know too. I actually am going to do a future show. I just want to touch on this before getting into Final Touch. So you see here on my screen, I purchased this last night. I've been wanting to get it for a while. I had a couple of people message me over the weekend asking about symphonic apps. And, you know, my go-to is always iSymphonic, but it costs a lot of money to purchase iSymphonic. You know, once you actually pay for the app, then to buy all the packs for it, it can lead you up to around $200. So there was another app that I knew was pretty good, and I wanted to look at it, so I actually purchased it this morning, and that is called Pure Synth here. I haven't downloaded any of the packs onto it, but this thing is going to be sick. So I'm going to maybe look at this tomorrow or give you an update on the song from yesterday. Depends. I'll just let you know to download. And before I get off this app here, what's really cool about this? So when you pay for it, it cost me $30 Australian, right? And so there's a bunch of in-app purchases. But there's instantly all these samples and stuff, they're not automatically in the app. You have to download them as soon as you install it. It's about 6 gigabytes of samples. And here's what's really cool about it. So I'll show you. I haven't downloaded anything yet, but it says here, tap to select. So you get to select where you would like to save these samples. And you can choose on your iPad or on an SSD card So my Seagate 2 terabyte hard drive, so I can save all the samples permanently over there, freeing up space, and it will just draw from my SSD to get the samples each time I change them. How cool is that? And these samples are absolutely fucking off tap. So that's that. We'll probably look at it tomorrow. And Bubba says, I bought that too today. Great minds, Bubba, in the chat. Great minds think alike. And I swear to God, some of these symphonic sounds and brass sounds, oh wow, they sound a bit delicious. Delicious. All right, so what are we doing? We're going to jump into Final Touch today, and we're going to show you everything that's in it, and then I'm going to do some masters of 3 very different songs, just to give you an idea of what you can achieve very quickly with Final Touch. So let's open this sucker. Now, this cost Australian $14.99, I think it is. So US, I think, what is it, probably about $10. Extremely worth your time and effort. I just better make sure of the price, because I'm not really sure. I did see, while I'm looking for the price here, Bubba, I saw there's an 8-bit pack in there. In that, oh my God, and it only costs $5, so I'm definitely very interested in downloading the 8-bit pack, hopefully with a whole bunch of Commodore 64 and Atari 2600 things. That would be really cool. So yeah, well, there you go. Currently Final Touch is actually on sale for $10 USD. It's normally worth $20. So if you are haven't got it yet, you're going to be saving money if you do buy it today. All right, let's open up this sucker. And we shall run through all of the things. Let's run through the first. We'll head up the top to the settings, just so you know what's going on over here. They're pretty basic. Your knob gestures, you can change your knob gestures to a linear, vertical, or rotary knobs. And I thought I'd start with knobs because everybody loves knobs, don't they? Run in the background, that pretty much speaks for itself. So, you can run it in the background if you are skipping between other apps. Your latency, you only have two sections here, a normal and low. So, if you've got a high-end iPad Pro, you can set those at a low latency. So that's pretty unexciting stuff there. That's about it. That's all the settings there. Let's run over here. So you have your out master volume and your in, and these ins come from these down the bottom here. So this chain starts from left to right and ends at this maximizer, and this is your in, so those go into there, and that goes out to here, and this is your master mix. So pretty standard stuff there. You're more into sliders, says Bubba in the chat. Each to their own. Don't be afraid. Where am I going? All right, so now to bring in each of these effects in the effects chain, all we need to do is hover over it, grab it, and slide it down, and that turns it on. Alternatively, up the top of each, up here, or go into a big screen, you probably can't see this. What am I doing? Get it together. So up the top here, you've got a bypass. So this, you'll see when I turn that on and off, it disappears up and down from the actual chain. So that works the same with all of these things. Pull down, and that is how you activate them. You can, I'm not sure, you can actually move them around the chain too. So remember that. You can move the order of the chain, and we'll go into why that can be helpful later on. But let's start with a music file. So what we're going to bring in, we'll bring in this track first. We're going to start with a heavier track. Well, this is it's a bit of a mixture. This is the title track from my DreadCircus album, which is still getting close to being done. So we'll actually import this. Now it's pretty easy to import stuff in. First, you can do it in Final Touch, and up here in the top left-hand corner, when you click on there, you get all these options. You can bring in tracks from iTunes, Dropbox, FTP. You can file share, audio paste, audio share, so you can do all of that stuff there. You can also do it from within something like audio share by clicking on the file, going down here to share, and there's Final Touch. So you just click on that and it imports it straight in. As you can see, I'm working with a stereo file up here, so stereo track. It's what you definitely want to mix down your songs into stereo tracks. Make sure you do that, because in the mastering process, you can actually listen to it in mono to get a better idea of how everything's sounding. So you always want to go for stereo tracks, unless you're like recreating some kind of really old style, like 1930s music, and you want it to be mono. So you don't always have to, but for modern music, of course, if you've got panning and all that stuff, you definitely want to mix down in stereo. Okay, so we have basically, when I've imported this, it's automatically given me three things that are open down here. So the maximizer's on, the dynamics, and the pre-EQ. There's nothing actually set in there. So the maximizer's pretty much at 0 here. The pre-EQ is sitting at 0 levels, and the dynamics are set at a 3-band compressor here. So you can have up to 4 bands on here, but it gives you a 3-band, and everything is set to, so your compressor rate is set to 1. Everything is pretty much flat. So let's have a listen to this just to hear what's going on. Hope it works. So the reason I chose this song is it has mellow verses, and as you can see by the wave, it builds up all the way through. How's it going, Mobile Metal, in the chat? And then it builds up to some really heavy choruses. I'll just play up to the chorus so you can get an idea of the variation in this song. So as you can see, at the top here, you can see that the peak is hitting, so RMS is hitting around 12, and the actual peak is hitting below 0, which is cool. Those choruses are super loud though, so it builds up. But what we're wanting to do when mastering this is we want to bring all the rest of the stuff that builds up to those heavy bits and make them a little bit thicker, and we want to keep that variation there. We want to keep those velocity levels all so it does build up, but we want to thicken them up a bit so it gives it a bit more of a sausage kind of look. But we don't want to lose as much definition as like going completely hardcore like for a full-on metal song and making it one large sausage. So let's start by playing around with the EQ. So as I said, everything works in a chain. All right. So what's at the start is pivotal. So pivotal. Give up, man. It's important. That's what it is. So we want to take out some of the low rumbling in this part here. That's what I'm going to do. And remember, there's no right or wrong way here. But let's have a play with it. And I'm just going to drag around. So I'm going to start by dragging around this number 3 here. But first, what I'm going to show you is you can change. So you can widen these waves. See these peaks here? And by doing that, now the standard for a peak on this third button here, you've got a 1. That's about the standard. A 1 is like your average kind of peak for any of these markers for an EQ here. When you tighten this up and make it larger, so as you can see, it's getting higher and going up to 11 to 12, you can see it's actually becoming a much thinner peak. So what happens when you're doing this is you're actually seeking out a tighter frequency. So you actually, and I'll show you the difference. We'll play it here. Let's take this back to 1. And we'll just drag it around for a little bit. Okay. So you can hear that. Now I'm going to tighten that peak up with the Q. This is called the Q setting. I'm going to make this 12. Listen to how tight you can get these. So hear that annoying little sound in there? That frequency right there? You can actually pull that out. Now, we'll let you know. See how high I'm taking this. This is over the top. This is not less is more, because you don't want to be doing these crazy, lifts like that. Let's take this back down to 1. As I said from the beginning, less is more is what you want to do. You only want to move things around like this kind of level. If you're moving things up like this, you're adding so much volume. If you look at over here to the right, my master output, when I add volume up here to any frequency, it basically pumps up the song to be in the red. So every point of the chain here, when you're adding something, you're adding volume to the final out. All right? So you've got to be aware of that. So this is why I say less is more. Like if I find this frequency here, let's do this again. I'm going to make this a Q and make it large. I'm going to look for this frequency. Now I've only pulled it down, so it was around there. I've only pulled it down about that much, so it's not a lot. But in the scheme of the mix, to pull out that tiny annoying part, to find those frequencies that are annoying in the song, and it's to your ears, remember, this is no, every song's completely different. All right, so that's how to use the Q setting to, and don't be afraid when you're playing a song to actually, to move the thing around. Move these things around and listen for these frequencies. That's what mixing is all about. Finding these frequencies, but don't get strapped down to it like it's the end of the world if you don't find every single frequency, because if you get to the point where you're trying to pull every little frequency out, that's ridiculous. Normally you can find 1 or 2 in there that might just be annoying, but you can balance that out somewhere else. So let's have a play. Let's bring this back to 1. And what I'm going to do is just a basic, what I would normally do for any song that's got heaviness. So let's get back to the heavy part. So let's stop it. Down the bottom here, you can add points in with these numbers. So you can have up to 8 points along this EQ band. All right. I'm going to leave it how it was. I think it was like that. Was that how it was? Yeah, that's exactly how it was. So I don't really need a lot here. Now this first one, I'm always going to try and cut some of the low rumble out. You can't hear it anyway, and normally between 50 to 100, you can rip out that low rumble, because it's just unnecessary shit that's in there that is just going to clutter up the song. So in my pre-EQ, that's just what I do. All right, so let's have a play, and you won't even notice it a lot of the time. When I pull it right back, all the bass is gone. You can hear that. But listen, from here to 50, it's not a lot because it's inaudible low rumble. That's why you're trying to remove that. Now I want to brighten this up. So I'm going to drag number 8. That would sound stupid. So now if I pull out this sound, just from this little amount of EQ, have a listen to the difference. It's already a heap brighter. But you can see how much volume it's added if you look at the output at the end. So what I'm going to do is on the output of this actual EQ, I'm just going to pull this down a bit. So why am I doing that? I'm pulling down the volume in this EQ that's leading into the next plugin, which will be going into the dynamics. So I want to take the output there a little bit lower, so it's keeping it lower to go into the next plugin. So you're trying to keep a balance of the same level all the way through till you get to the main out. So let's have a look, and we can go back and play with that EQ a little bit later. But as I said, I'm just trying to keep things simple today. So right here we have our 3-band. You can change it to a 4-band, but we're going to stick with a 3-band right now. Let's turn it up a bit, and I'll show you what adding volume to your high, your mid, and your low end without any compression does. And you can see we've got a visual EQ always behind it, and you can see the visual EQ rising. And the bass. So the beauty of this 3-band compression, this dynamics section here, is you can actually add compression to each section. So every time I touch one of these dots, that highlights the mids, and so it's the highs, the mids, and the lows. Okay, and then you can add compression to each individual part, or you can do it for the whole song overall. That's up to you. And the way to actually make it for the whole song, when we go across the bottom here, this is your attack, your threshold. So your threshold, it's set right now at -23.1. When I pull this all the way down, it's going to run no compression whatsoever. Let's put it back to where it was. Okay. And let's pull up this ratio. So the threshold controls how much, at what point the compression kicks in, and the release, actually, I'm sure I'm getting this right, it's early, is the amount that it is allowing. So for things like vocals, you're looking normally around something like a 3, 3.4, something like that. I'm going to give you an example of over compressing something. So I'm going to turn it all the way up to 8, and let's hear the difference. See if you can hear it. So see down here, this little blancmange, this little lump thing, that's transparent little lump thing. That's the amount of compression that is pumping through here. And you can see it pumping, and that's where you get the term pumping, all right? And you can hear the music as it goes up. It starts to suck like it's playing a beat, and then it sucks the air out. Plays the beat, sucks the air out. So let's listen to a pump as I turn it up. We'll get it to a heavy bit. That's not what you want to do. If you are going to add compression to these things, keep it simple and keep it minimal. Don't overdo it, all right? All you want to do with compression is just to give a little bit of compression to try and bring up the low parts up with the rest of the higher parts of the songs, all right? So as we said, when you look at the waveform here, how it's really small at the beginning, and it gets a bit louder, and then the choruses are really loud. We're trying to bring these bits all up to get them just a little bit thicker, but still maintain that start small and get thicker. So we still want it to be like a funnel growing. We don't want it to be a complete sausage. If I did a save right now, let's try it just for fun. I'm going to turn up the ratio of the compression and do a quick save of this song, and look what happens to it. it'll get so compressed it'll sound like absolute shit. It'll look like shit and it'll sound like shit. It'll lose all of its definition. Ba-bum, 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 ba. Look at that. That's not what you want. That's over compressing. So remember, the more compression you put on, you're just going to squash it down to an absolute... And it's got no character anymore. It's all the same level nearly. No definition, and it's pumping. Every time there's a kick or a snare hit, it actually sucks the air out, and then the air comes back in. It's like standing on an air pump, an air compressor to blow up an air mattress. It sounds like dog shit. Let's delete that. I never want to see that ever again. So let's go back into Final Touch and bring down this compression. Now, what's also good here, I've just mentioned that you can see how each time I select one of these dots, it highlights the actual part of one of the bands. You can actually solo the band as well. So when you're playing the song, so you can hear the low rumble, you can hear the mid rumble, you can hear the high rumble, and you can add compression individually to each of these sections if you really want to finite things. But another really cool thing is here, if you have a look where the ratio is, there's a little all button. You can click this on and off, and this, when you turn, so if you click it on any of these settings here, when you turn up the compression, it covers all of the bands, which is just what I'm going to do now. So this song doesn't need a lot of compression on it. I'm just going to hit around 2.4. And now I'm going to play a little bit with the frequencies. So even now, let's have a listen to it with these two effects in and then without. So you'll notice it's the same level, but it feels like it's lost a little bit of its guts when I turn on the compression because it started to bring everything up to a more decent level. But that's where we have the rest of the effects to balance that out. That's where you use your EQ and stuff to balance all that stuff out. So let's turn these back on. Next, I've skipped over the reverb. Look, let's have a look at it quickly. I don't really use the reverb in here, and you're free to do so. I find if you already haven't added the reverb on all of your individual tracks and your mix, I don't know what you're doing, because that's something you do in your mix. I really don't find, every time I've done a master using the reverb in this, I find it really turns the whole song into shit. It's something you can do. I'll have a look at it quickly. You can solo it here. Change the amount of wet and dry. Change the room size. It's just something I never really play with because it's a feature that they've added in there. It's a nice little touch they've added in there, but I don't really find it to be anything useful. That's just my personal preference. It's pretty much a reverb. You don't really need to know much more about it. Let's have a look at the stereo image here. So in here, you can start to add a bit of width to your mix with this stereo panning. Okay, so we'll turn it off and we'll just play from the start and see if you can hear what happens when I turn it on. And when I do turn it on, immediately it'll be panned hard 100 to left and right. So it'll be trying to split it fully as far as it can go left and right, and widening the whole song. And if I change like the right one, you can hear. And now I've made it all over to the one side. And you've got this great visualizer there to actually see what's going on. What you also get down here is sometimes when you create a mix, and this is, you definitely don't want this when you create a mix, you can get some really weird phasing. Okay, with by the way you've actually organized your EQ or your panning, say with 2 guitar tracks in a song, and the phasing can go out of sync. Right, you can actually there's 2 little phase buttons here that you can actually correct that and bring that into correct phase if your mix is that fucked up and you're really trying to salvage it, or you've lost the master file of the mix and it's all out of phase. You can actually do that as well. So when I play it, you'll hear using these on a well mixed song really fucks up the sound. So let's do that. Let's play it again, Sam. So it's not going to make much difference to your hearing here because nothing's out of phase in this mix. Everything's nicely phased. Stereo width, this knob up here, this adds more width. Really, you don't. If you are going to add any more width to this, I really wouldn't go over anything like 1 dB. I don't know. You start, because the more you push this, the more you'll actually put your sound out of phase. And listen what happens when I turn it up at full blast. It sounds like you're drunk, like you've got a plastic bag over your head, and the phasing gets all fucked up. So, again, use with moderation, very light, less is more. It's about these subtle changes to your songs. So what I'm going to do with this, just for this mix, is instead of keeping these pans, I'm going to take them to about 25, so about a quarter, just to give a little bit of stereo width. So you should be able to hear the difference there. It's only small. But again, there's volume here. If we go back to the dynamics, there's volume here as well. So there's volume coming up here, and then it's leading into the next one. So this one has added volume as well. So we've got a much brighter mix here. Next, I'm going to just skip the post EQ and we're going to go straight to the maximizer. So this is the limiter. And this is what I do last, because you want to try and bring all this up to now get to a level that is nice and presentable for things like Spotify. Because as you can see, let's just play it again. Watch the out level here at the end, and I'll start without any of these effects on. So it's pretty similar around the volume. Not too much has changed, but we've got a bit of a brighter mix there. That's all I've been going for this. But we'll go back to that and we'll fix that with that post EQ. So now I'm going to bring up the maximizer. We'll turn this down a little bit. And this is where you're hard limiting your stuff to bring down all the levels a little bit more. And then, so basically what it's doing is it's pulling the levels down and then bringing them back up. This is this final thing. So it's kind of, it's a double standard kind of thing, if that makes sense. It's hard to explain. This shit's always really hard to explain. Again, if you have a basic understanding of what everything does, then it all comes back to keep it minimal and does it sound good? If it doesn't sound good, then you're doing something wrong. So let's have a play. Now, to bring your limiter up, it's this middle section here, the threshold. And you'll know if it's actually doing anything by watching over here. If you see action or any lights happening here, then you know it's taking an effect. So I'm going to pull this down. You pull down to actually begin the limiting process. Oops, I've got to turn it on, don't I? See it get louder? That was just destroying it there. So you can see we're getting some light action there. So just a little bit of light action over here. So it's doing something. And you'll notice over here your peak, you want to make sure that's not hitting red, going crazy, way too loud and creating distortion. So what I'm going to do now is bring to the left of this output, this little input here. This is taking the entire chain. And I'll pull this down a little bit. Because I want to give it a little room. Alright, so you can clearly hear it's a lot brighter, it's a lot louder, it's still not hitting over the top for peaking, it's got a little bit of compression on it, it's got some limiting on it, it's been stereo widened. Now I want to try and put back some of the low end that I've lost by brightening things up a little bit, alright, because we've lost a little bit of that now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the post EQ here, this one, and let's have a play with it. I'm just going to play it and I'm going to move around some of the knobs. Yeah, we all love moving knobs. Okay, I'm not going to piss fart around too much with it because, like I normally say, when doing a master, try and spend like 13, 15 minutes on it. If you're wearing headphones, if you're listening to speakers and you've got them up loud, you've got headphones up loud, you don't want to sit under your headphones for longer than 15 minutes. Do this, right? Then straight away, what you can do is you've got this little preset button down the bottom here. Click on it. There's a whole bunch of presets in here. I'm not really going to go over these today. I might do these in another video. But I mean, they're pretty basic things, you know. So there's like styles of music, select instruments, broadcast, radio, TV kind of things. But it's best to go over what I want to show you right now is that once you've got a mix like this, go ahead, click the little preset button, hit add, create a new folder for what song you're doing. So, whoops. So we're doing non-conformist. That makes a folder and hit done. Now we want to go in there and add, hit save and save your presets. So non-con master 1. And at least you've saved it, and then do a quick export and see what it looks like, because sometimes it's good to actually look at the WAV file once it's actually done. So let's just go over here. Now here's where, we'll just get out of here. So to export your file, you hit this little ellipsis up the top here. You've got all these options to share it to, same as where you're importing from. So we'll go to audio share because it's the most easy to use. You've got options to save as a WAV, AIF, M4A, MP3. So you want to save it as a WAV, definitely. I'm saving in 24 bits because the song was recorded in 24 bits. You can save the sample rate as 44.1, which is your standard for audio. If you may be using stuff for film, I would use 48 because that's the standard that they use in movies and such. But we're going to use 44, a WAV, and 24 bits and hit export. You can change the name of it if you like as well. Name it whatever the fuck you want. And we'll have a look at what it looks like in audio share as a WAV file, just to make sure there's no peaks or anything like that. And that's pretty good. I'd probably go back and pull the volume out a bit. So here's the beauty of it. It's digital files. You can just go straight back in. I hit play again. So I pulled down this output by a smidgen. Now I'm going to do the same thing. Hit audio share, 24-bit, WAV, export. You can do as many of these as you like too. To compare, make sure you're not peaking, hitting that ceiling. And that's the best way you're going to get good results. So you'll see the difference in these two. I only pulled down a little bit. It's not too much. I could probably do it again. I like doing this over and over till I get it right. That's a fair bit that I pulled it down. Let's give that a go, yeah? One more for the road. One more for the road, yeah, baby. So if you're getting anything out of this, make sure you hit like, all that kind of stuff. Hopefully this is helping somewhat. There you go, look at that. That to me is probably it looks good. It's the highest peaks are just below. You've got nothing that's got a flat touch on it. And if you have a listen, now quickly, let's bounce over to the original track. So you'll see, just by that last little bit there, you can hear how the vocals are heaps brighter. There's so much difference. I'll go over that again. So overall the song isn't that much different. Like it's still got all the variation and the velocities. It still has that tubular look for the verse building up to the chorus, but you'll hear just in the chorus with these growls just how much difference there is in clarity of the vocals. So here's the original. And I will admit to you, now that we're at this point of the show, I'm doing this in headphones, and I hate mastering in headphones. I fucking hate it so much. It's just my opinion. Like anything else, I prefer to master on speakers so I can hear in high quality speakers exactly what's coming out, exactly what levels they are, with good speakers with, it's just the way it is for me, because headphones can vary so much and your hearing gets so isolated in headphones that the difference can be stark. You can sit there and look, there's nothing wrong with mixing if you don't have speakers and doing all this stuff. If you are mixing in for headphones or mastering in headphones, the one thing I do make sure you try and do is go and listen to the tracks on other sources, like, a little Bluetooth speaker or your car stereo, or lots of different things, your home stereo, your phone, and see how it sounds across the board, especially when mixing using headphones, because you can get a bit of a misrepresentation. Same thing with using monitors, but I just find definitely using monitors I get a far better idea of what sounds and frequencies are going on. So I didn't really go too much into the frequencies. I know it's probably a bit overwhelming, all the stuff that I've gone over today, and it can be, and I hope you're not more confused by this. I guess what I'm trying to say is just show you to keep it minimal as we go back and look at it all one last time. These touches to everything that I've done here, 25 left and right, so nothing there. This EQ, there's hardly anything being touched, hardly any volume there at all. Little bits in the mid and the bass there that I've put up, a 2.4 ratio for compression. And here is all I've tried to do here is balance out the actual the pre-EQ with a post-EQ. And the maximizer is just adding volume to the final product. So ultimately, don't overcompress. Don't overcompress it and you won't get pumping. That's the main thing you got to try and remember. Try not to compress it down too much. Because as soon as you get pumping, your whole song's fucked. That is it. There's no right, there's no wrong way. Just don't get pumping. Unless like you're seeing a prostitute, then get pumping as fast as you can because you're paying for every minute. Oh, that went down a dark corridor. Sorry, I thought I was back at work there. Anyway, folks, that'll do it for today. I definitely think I'll go and revisit this again, and we'll look at some different styles of music, and we'll go into some presets. How about we do that next week? So we'll stay tuned for next week, and we'll do a little bit more. In the meantime, if you've got the app, jump into it, play around with it, fuck around with it, see what kind of sounds you can get. Over pump it. Get used to what pumping sounds like. Turn up the compression to 8 so you actually hear what it shouldn't fucking sound like. As I say in these shows all the time, mistakes make you better. So go and make all the mistakes that you can. Turn everything up to 11, and then you'll know what you don't want to actually do. All right? So I hope this has helped. As usual, if you're watching on the replay and stuff, do the liking, hit the big thumb, okay? And a thing will be popping up on the screen right now with like a subscribe button and a playlist of other stuff that I do on this silly little channel. And my EP is out now, so there's a link in the description if you want to go and buy that. It's really evil. And I'll see you all tomorrow. I hope you have a wonderful day creating lots of cool things. I hope you have a good time with your family and friends. Let them know that you love them and do what makes you happy, because that's the most important thing. Okay? See you later, everybody. Have a good day. Bye.